Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farbach. Well, Russia is escalating its messaging around Ukraine, warning of systematic strikes on Kyiv and urging foreign missions to consider evacuation, even as Western diplomats say they will remain in place. And the warnings come alongside some of the most intense reported drone and missile attacks on the capital in recent weeks. We'll discuss the latest now with Bohdan Nahaylo in the studio, editor-in-chief of Kyiv Post. Good to have you back.
Good morning.
So looking at also this conversation that just recently occurred with Marco Rubio and Lavrov warning that there would be these systematic strikes, decision-making centers will be targeted in Kyiv. What does that mean to you when you hear something like this?
More of the same, but I think that it's not just a signal. It's a message and it's a cry of despair. The message is, look, we still have the power to strike. And you may be praising Ukraine for its prowess now with drones and long-range missiles, but we still have the clout and we can make a difference. That's one thing. The cry of despair, I think, is really to cover up the lost pride after both the circumstances in which the victory parade, so-called parade, took place recently in Moscow and Putin's defensive reaction to that, but also the Ukrainians reaching Moscow and potentially being able to hit Moscow at their will. Also, I think that the Russians find themselves in a corner. They're not making advances on the front for a long time. They're losing ground here and there. There is indeed a kind of frozen conflict, but in recent weeks, the Ukrainians seem to have regained the initiative. Maybe not the decisive one, but it's not going in Russia's favor. So they want to show that they have the power, and they want to warn the West, particularly Europe, which is continuing to galvanize and is discussing on what terms, if any, to talk directly with Moscow, but also a kind of wake-up call to Trump, because Trump and Rubio emphasizes this. They've withdrawn from the negotiations process, saying, well, we can't do anything at this stage, we'll come back later. Obviously, Trump is preoccupied with Iran, failure there for the moment, and so Russia is in a sense making itself felt again, like a spoiled child in the corner, against the broader context of China, the recent visits by both Trump and by Putin, and we're here. Help us out. Let's not just let this fester to the advantage of Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. Then also, just get your sense of what this means. Marco Rubio, he's in India, but he said Kyiv has been a very dangerous place for a number of years. Okay, that may be very obvious, but does it carry any more weight that he's saying, or what do we get from this?
You see, I don't take Rubio too seriously anymore, nor do I think Kyiv, because he was regarded as a competent diplomat, but he's become very much a kind of sycophant, and he's not, shall we say, an autonomous player on the diplomatic scene. He reports to his master, he conveys messages from his master, and so only weeks ago, he was saying, this is not our war, right? Most recently, he was saying, we're out of this process, let Europe deal with it. Now, well, we can come back and we are following it, this is terrible. And the message yesterday simply was very different from the US ambassadors, acting ambassadors' message from Kyiv. She condemned after what she saw had happened at the weekend and said this is unacceptable, whereas he's saying, war is a terrible thing, this conflict is, and there's always a danger of escalation is the word. How long have we been hearing this word, escalation? Well, where's your stance? Why do you not condemn this at the UN, for example, recently, kind of meal-mouthed, almost again emphasizing appeasement of Russia as opposed to condemnation of horrific crimes.
But at the same time, and I think there's many layers to that, but as you said, it's messaging conveyed from a certain person in D.C. Also, in terms of messaging, let's go for a moment. Also, a visitor in Kyiv will be Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, essentially de facto opposition leader. What do you make of this connection now? Her being there, we're not sure will she meet Zelensky or not, but tell us about her high-level visit there.
Finally, she arrived in Kyiv yesterday, and it's very important historically because as editor of the Kyiv Post, I've been one of those who have been calling Zelensky out and saying, why are you ignoring the leader of the opposition, the person that the majority, I would think, of Belarusians believe won the presidential election in 2020. So why are you ignoring her? So for her, this is a breakthrough, and I think she made that clear in her statements. And look what she did yesterday. She visited Chernobyl. Belarus was badly affected by Chernobyl. She visited the graves of fallen Belarusian volunteers who have fought for Ukraine. And then she was received by the foreign minister, and they both made very, I would say, new programmatic statements, sending a clear message to the outside world, but Lukashenko in particular, that Ukraine is not going to tolerate anymore his providing Belarus as a vassal of Moscow, the territory and the operational base for launching attacks, potential or otherwise. So I think that's very important. Zelensky has been seen to have shaken her hands a few times at meetings, but apparently they're meeting today. And I think that this is very important. From the point of view of Kyiv Post and our editorial position, we feel that Ukraine should be much more active in being a platform, a voice for those that cannot have to be abroad to support the democratic and anti-colonial cause in their countries, as, for example, Tsikhanouskaya and the Belarusian national opposition. So I think that the fact that Ukraine has also now not just received her, but if you note in the fine print, they've appointed a special ambassador, denoted a person that is supposed to take charge of relations with them. And there is talk, or I think even today, there is the opening of a proto-office of the Belarusian opposition in Kyiv. So this is good news for the Belarusian opposition, and it reinforces the solidarity which should have been emphasized all along.
Mm-hmm. But then also, I mean, on such a high level, and as we said, it's opposition, and how will this be then, let's say, interpreted by Lukashenko? I mean, what do you reckon that'll cause?
Lukashenko, as we know, is a sly fox, but he's a brutal dictator, and he is a lackey of Moscow. So obviously he'll puff and pant. But what has he been doing the last few years, particularly in the last weeks? He's allowing Russia to put its latest missiles on his thing. He's building roads to the Ukrainian border, sending a signal, this could be bluff, to turn Ukraine's attention away from the Eastern Front, right, divert resources. But it could be the signal that, well, I have no choice, you know, I'm in power because Putin allows me to be in power, so I have to do what my master tells me, another master, you know. And so I think that he's not going to be surprised. Also, I think what is significant, but this is my own personal take, that this warming or this reaching out to Tsikhanouskaya has occurred since Yermak was replaced. Yermak was given the role of being the chief negotiator, you know, the kind of Witkoff of Ukraine for some reason. And we don't know what business deals might have been in the background about provision in the past of diesel through Mosul, for example, or what kind of unwritten pledges were made behind the scenes. As I said at the outset, Lukashenko's a sly fox. And he could have said one thing there, something else to Moscow, something else to Washington, etc. But seemingly, once Yermak has gone, various opportunities have arrived that weren't there before.
Mm-hmm. And also, I want to come back and jump in what you said earlier when we talked about those strikes by Russia. As much as I think, characterize them as like a desperate sort of signal, it's still dangerous. I want to get your sense of this new policy, this new debt relief policy that the Russians are trying to get people in to forgive debt. I mean, that also sounds a bit like not the normal kind of recruitment thing. So what does that tell us about where Moscow is now with this?
Well, it tells us that they're in a bad economic situation. We hear about this. Perhaps it's taken longer to impact from the sanctions, but now it's been affected by the targeted strikes by Ukrainians on energy hubs, particularly oil gas hubs. Then that's having an effect, of course. the failure right now of Putin to persuade Xi to open a pipeline to China is a blow for the future. Other routes are being found through the Caucasus, Kazakhstan, whatever. So Russia feels affected by this, and there is the grumbling at the top. Businessmen, oligarchs, they are effective. They have to serve, again, the master. But, you know, as in Master Margarita, there's always a devil in the background somewhere. And Putin seems to be very afraid of how things are happening. He's rarely seen. He's a bunker, a leader. And, of course, debt relief sounds good on the surface because if Russia is to be forced to the table, it needs something in return to make it look, you know, for a face-saving things. So relief in sanctions, which Trump has been willing to suggest is on the table, that would really, shall we say, empower Putin to at least move an inch or two towards some kind of settlement.
Yeah, so a lot of different threads there. But look, thanks. It's always a pleasure having you here, sharing your insights there. Bohdan Nahaylo there, editor-in-chief of the Kyiv Post. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. Concludes World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more. Goodbye.